Okay, let's hope the rest of the day goes better. I am going to give a minute or so here to those. I mean, I was about ready to go live, and I was going to type into the chat, and I typed MI or something, and whatever I typed killed the first stream. OMG. I am going to wait for a few people to join here. I apologize. Wow, that really stunk. I think some people are finding me. Okay, sorry. Yes, sorry. You ever have those auto keys? Obviously, with our streaming software, and then I started another one, and I noticed it was unlisted. I'm like, well, no, wait a second, anyways, newbie YouTube guy, that's not my forte right now, and I have it up and running here. Um, I think everybody, okay, Paco, if you can see me type into the chat. I know there's about a 10 to 20-second delay depending on things between. Okay, so why am I only getting, okay, she's only getting music. Oh, now wow, it's way behind. At least the refresh I got up here, so. Why did that take so long to come up? Warning, streams bit rate lower than recommended. Oh, people, I am sorry. Let's see if our network picks up here. I accidentally killed the first one with trying to type into the chat. I hope you're getting some audio. It was going so good right up to about 60 seconds before this was supposed to kick off. All right. Working on throughput. All right. Well, hopefully I can post a better recording because I do have this recording locally here as well. I don't see any other stuff that might be taking up performance, but I am pausing all syncing on my system here. Oh yeah, there's one. I gotta. So for those of you who use cloud shares like OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever, turning off the syncing engines probably will improve things here. Keep the bandwidth, though I still see it a little jumpy. All right, we're gonna have to hope things settle down there. All right. So that was not a good start. So let's see if the bit rate smooths out a little bit. I'm going to run my normal intro to MOTT, and I'll be back in 90 seconds. So what is MOTT? MOTT stands for Machine Owner Technician Training. It's a program that I've worked with Handy Quilter on getting approved so that the people that do not have good technicians near them can work on their own machines with us as their support organization so that they can do it without violating a warranty or being told that they're doing something they shouldn't. We also give you access to parts, training. You can check out the link below to get all the details on the internet there. On YouTube here, we try and do a little bit of troubleshooting because troubleshooting applies to both users and technicians. Okay. If you're a user now, we have a what we call the MK Quilts University, where all our training is hosted. We have our premium track, which teaches people how to use their long arms, especially Pro Stitcher. There's a crossover of troubleshooting. What's happening when I'm having a bad stitch, a long stitch? It's making this noise or something else. But you're going to need to be a MOTT member to get the detailed technical issues. And you can take that as far as you want. We train you on doing the basics. But if you want to know more about your machine and how to troubleshoot, there's going to be a lot of content in MOTT. All right, so now back to the program. Okay, so it looks like the stream health has gone back to excellent. I will quit touching buttons where I shouldn't. We'll get this going here. So welcome. The main troubleshooting topic we were going to start with today was related to something that literally happened 4 o'clock in the afternoon in our shop here, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I do want to let people know that we did have a very successful Saturday service group session last week. I didn't have this broadcast, but what we did was about 23 people got on board, and we all serviced the machines together. I answered questions. I talked a lot for 2 hours, which, first thing I point out on the recorded video is that you can fast forward and skip ahead in these videos. So that is always a positive thing. But yeah, if you're considering working on your machine and being able to maintain it and at least do timing and the basic service, the machine owner training group is really a good asset. There's a core group of people already that we get together and we talk about a lot of different things that you really don't need to know, but some of them are helpful. Some of them are just very interesting stories. We're going to, after this session, jump onto our Google Meet session. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the troubleshooting steps are in service manuals. I've got a story about a divine screw. Anyways, repairing threaded strip threads in the machines and things like that. Also ran into a zombie baby lock carriage on the machine, and I'll explain that, but the only time I found one that was just a little strange. So all right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to review a very short video on me basically in front of the machine just after I discovered what happened here. So I'm basically called into door 1 where we have 4 machines running, and what had happened, I'll explain a little bit and then you'll see me babble in the video, but what had happened is that many passes across this quilt, and all of a sudden it looks like it gets around a corner and starts doing some longer basting stitches around the pattern. The Pro Stitcher's still moving it. Weirdest thing. So let me share the video and it'll explain what I figured out, but it was definitely one of those where my brain just wasn't there initially. It just didn't make sense, but then we figured it out. Okay, I'm going to do a quick little test. Yeah, okay. So even after a half of a quilt, all of a sudden the machine was coming around and it looked like it was doing basting stitches. But what really happened, we found out, we took the needle out and of cruise onto precision. So that's the way you test the encoders. And then we hit go, the laser light goes out. You can see up here on the screen, it's green, so it's in run, but it's not stitching, okay? If you turn cruise on, it will stitch, but the regulation is not there. So what do? You check the encoders and back. Well, both encoders were in place and everything's working. Well, what's particularly weird about this is I'm gonna run around back here. Okay, this is an unexpected hum.
Oh.
keep rolling. This is mystery theater here, okay? We don't care about Pro Stitcher. The problem's with the machine right now. So I can tell you what probably caused the problem there. Okay, so the encoders weren't working. We looked at the back, all our cable restraints and things are in, everything's plugged in, check the push, 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 wheels are down, it should have been working. I even called Handy Quilter, and as I'm talking to him on the phone, I go, why don't I try switching these around? Well, long story short, what we found out is that when I unplug the X encoder and leave it hanging, now we're gonna go push the button to go, and the Y encoder works. Okay, so is the port bad? So I'm going to take the Y encoder cable, move it around the machine, plug it into the X encoder port, try it, okay? Okay, so even though I'm in the X encoder port, it's the Y encoder, so it's forward and back that does it. But you can see both ports on the machine are working if you have a good encoder. So the only thing I can surmise is that the encoder or cable here on the X encoder went bad in the middle of a flip and quilt, okay? So I'm gonna take, see, we use this medical tape, so we had it restrained so that things wouldn't be lifting up on it. But my next test is going to be swapping the cable. And we're gonna take care of this tomorrow. But the message here for this short is, unplug one of the encoders and see if you get encoding back on the other, and vice versa, because this cable or whatever's going on with the encoder was basically shorting out the communication for all encoding. So we got it down to the problem, but I tell you, late in the afternoon, you don't want to be dealing with these things, and you really don't want your quilt to, you know, have extra holes in it. And by the way, if you didn't catch the tip, take the needle out. Take the needle and thread out, and then you can do a lot of things very safely on the machine. So hope this helps. Okay, so that was Teresa's first camera work there. Teresa was helping out. I just had her do it. So we will work on that as well. But I think you get the general idea of what was going on there, and that weird hum we were getting was likely from the hum of the short. And when I say short, that doesn't mean the power is shorting and things burn up and smoke. You know, if you short out your power, things pop, things get ugly, things burn, things break. But the signals, you know, just like the audio signal out of your headset or whatever, these audio cables going between the encoder and the machine, they're just sending signals. Now, what I believe is that the cable, always prepared, the cable that I have marked bad here and swapped out likely had some sort of short that worked into one of these connector points, okay? Supposition at this point, because once I manipulated this cable, put it back in, it worked just fine, okay? So we had the connector restrained in the encoder, and so it wasn't popping out. We had pushed it in. Still could have a bad connector or something in the encoder. So this is a X encoder. So snapped in, always turn it this way, and that that medical tape we put over the top to keep it from rotating around, because that becomes a lift point and you will have encoder issues. So I don't know. I don't know if we'll have time to test this out, but I flagged this one as a bad cable because it's cheaper to swap a cable and just get rid of a possible problem in the future. Now, we haven't had any repeat issues on that machine up to this point. I'm not going to throw this away until I'm sure it's the likely culprit. So that's just weird. I mean, it's a relatively new machine. People can walk behind their machines and catch their belts or other things on those encoder cables and things in the back and potentially could damage them. I mean, I don't think we did that here. We keep a pretty good clearance, but even the great MK on her Infinity, this is 6, 7, 8 years back when she was in her garage, she went behind her Infinity, caught the rear encoder cable, which is a ribbon cable, and ripped it out. And I didn't have a spare, and she was down. It's not one that's easily repaired. So things like that can happen. So make sure you go through the checklist that we have on our website support pages for troubleshooting encoders when things are not stitching. And I'm going to beat this horse again if you've been around me at any time. Make sure you, in your mind, separate, is it a machine issue? Is it a pro stitcher issue? Okay? So what makes the needle go up and down? The pro stitcher has nothing to do with making the needle go up and down other than basically hitting a virtual go button. It's going to like hit the go button on the handlebars. And at that point, well, just be 100% clear, your pro stitcher may also set some settings in the machine like stitches per inch or things like that. But once that go button's hit, what tells the pro stitcher to move that needle up and down is two things: the encoders, and if you're in cruise, the cruise mode is going to run at a minimum stitches per inch that you set in the settings. So as you saw, those basting stitches at the end were the cruise telling the needle to go up and down because the encoder information stopped getting through to it. Okay, so that's the logic behind that, and surprisingly enough, or not surprising, most encoder issues you troubleshoot the same way, and take the needle out so you don't damage a quilt that's on there. You can see when the needle is going up and down properly. Always test in one axis, left or right, so you can isolate it. In my case, neither axis worked until I took the X encoder out of the equation. So I thought that would be interesting for people, especially those just watching our troubleshooting segments on YouTube, because even experts run into these problems with the machines, and you need to know enough to troubleshoot them. Do you need to keep spare cables like this around? Probably not. If you're doing it as a small business where downtime costs you lots of money, I'll bet this is less than a $25 cable. And sorry about my phone dinging. So yeah, you can put some spare parts together. If you're doing a small business, check out our May promotion coming up, because having a second machine, especially just a workhorse, we're selling a couple used fusions with new pro stitchers underneath them. So you're saving $10,000 easy. A 24-inch machine does edge to edge great. So a lot of people that run a business find that they really need to have two machines just in case something happens to one of them. So anyways, we won't ponder on that. I had a very rough start when if you didn't hear on this video, I was about to go live and I was going over here to type something into the chat, and I had my OBS control thing highlighted. So instead, obviously there's a key combination that cancels the stream, and I was rather upset. So for those of you who did find this stream, looks like we've got 17 concurrent users. Thank you for putting up with the pain. I will, within 24 hours, rename, re-straighten, and clean things up there, but we'll get better at this. All right, I'm going to look in the chat menu. Now's the time. Realize there's a little delay, to ask me some questions about this. And for the MOTT members, I will definitely be in the Google Meet session here right after we do what we do here. Okay. So yes, Ricky, who is a member, commented about our efforts last week, that he successfully got everything open lubed and that he feels the machine runs a little quieter. Now that's definitely definitely likely. Putting extra grease and lubes in the machine on these will often quiet them down a bit. The loudest thing in your machine, again, if you haven't heard before, is your hook and basket, and that will wear. So keep oiling it every bobbin change or whatever. But we have replaced so many hook and baskets, even though they're just under $200. But that rattling up front transmits through the machine. It's just really loud. So I can't tell you the number of people that have opted to replace. Yep, this is a new one. You can see a bunch of these after all these years. So Surliani, Koban, both will work. Not a big deal. But if you think your machine's getting noisy and such, that's sort of the worst case. In most cases, is just getting a new hook and basket. All right, I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I don't know why the stream went a little wacky here, but I'll be a little better at shutting down processes. All right, can I think of anything else interesting? I do have. Okay, actually, here's a bonus. I'll give you a bonus few minutes here under the troubleshooting thing. Something else that happened to me today, and I think it's just something that people should recognize. And I'm looking for a bobbin case. Can you believe I probably didn't pull it out of my case? So anyways, backlashing. Everybody know what backlashing is? It is a situation where your bobbin in the bobbin case, which snaps into your hook and basket, that's the heart of your system there. As you start and stop your machine, you don't want that bobbin to keep spinning, because it will loosen up and release more thread into the bobbin case and potentially out. And I'm sure I've demonstrated this before, but maybe next time I'll have it on hand for you. What one of my customers was having, and she had other issues, but she's like, the thread is physically coming out of the bobbin case, and she tried 2 different bobbin cases and everything, but we are convinced the problem was that she is a power user, and both of her bobbin cases, backlash springs, the little springs that are in the bottom of the case. I'm sure that I'll find it just sitting around here, but they showed a lot of wear, and when you drop a loaded bobbin into your bobbin case, you should see the bobbin pop up above the case just enough, almost where you can put a fingernail between the bobbin case and the bobbin wall there. I've got pictures elsewhere, but the thing is, make sure you have backlash spring or genie, or some of these pre-wounds have little magnets in there. You can see on the back of them. Okay, these other paper ones certainly should have a backlash spring, but people find what works for them. But what happens is, as you get down to taking more and more thread off there, if you think about it, to pull off 5 inches of thread, how many times does that bobbin have to spin? Well, if you're down to almost nothing left on the bobbin, it's going to spin a lot faster, and therefore it will not stop. So the customer was having this problem, but only after a long run, when her bobbin case was getting almost empty. So we replaced the spring, and I haven't heard of any problems since. So anyways, I thought that I would bring that up as well, because that's another troubleshooting thing. You should always have a spare bobbin case. The bobbin case springs are dirt cheap on our website. Those little things can run into issues, but that's real world stuff for you. All right, so I am going to cut the live feed now. I'm going to finish up with our little Who is MK Quilts if you're new to us. Otherwise, you can just um, quit. But I'll finish with this commercial and wish everybody a great day. And I will see my MOTT members on our private Google Meet session. Okay, so this is the pre-recorded commercial for MK Quilt so that I can describe a little bit about what we do. We are a retail shop out of Florida, but we sell our machines nationally. We've got hundreds of them out there. We have a university for training and making sure people use these expensive machines and that they get the proper support. And this MOTT training is just the next step of us making sure that the best support is given to our customers and to others out there. You know, call us. We will help you, and I appreciate you putting up with this little commercial. Our phone number is 727-935-1739. But like I said, sales@mkquilts.com is probably the best way to get a hold of us. All right, I lied a little. Support is the best way to get a hold of us, unless you're looking to buy a machine. But all right, everybody, have a great day.